and we are ready to go with the most awesome next speaker who has been with DC and is certified on multiple levels. Not only is he a author who has created his own ideas and taken DC psychology and combined it with his personal expertise with organizations on multiple levels and created an awesome book, but he's also certified as an organizational culture consultant, which is why he's talking today, because he's been working with various organizations in building their organizational culture and helping them to create higher performing cultures. Plus, on top of that, he is also a gamification certified expert, which means that he can actually help to create ultimately high performing processes and people through gamification and affect culture in the process. Yes, that is correct. I am speaking none other than Davidson Abishegam. I think that's the right way to say the last name, Abishegam. Is that right? Okay, well, we're gonna put him on right now, I just got to tell you, you got to pay attention. All right. Now, he, when he speaks, all right, he is going to give you some very specific details of what to do and how to do it. So pay attention, all right, because this is important. Okay. He knows what he's talking about, and he is going to help you to ultimately, regardless of whether you're a big, giant organization or a small business, Dave is going to make sure that you know what to do. Okay. Ready, Dave? Where are you? There he is.
Hello, Arthur. Thank you so much for that very animated introduction. Good to see you.
And of course, he's even got the beard. See, like we're just kind of like brothers.
Yep. Brothers from a different mother. Yeah. How have you been, Arthur?
I have been awesome, Dave. Thank you very much. And, we're very happy that you actually have graced us with your awesomeness here at Reboot 2020. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you got to say. And I'm sure that the rest of the audience is too.
Yep, likewise. And I hope for the next 45 minutes, we can have a very fruitful session and a good learning session as well with our audience. Thank you so much, Arthur.
All right, so take it away.
All right, thank you. Well, I certainly hope that energy that Arthur just displayed when he introduced me is contagious. I'm going to need some of it. Now, in DC terminology, we refer to what Arthur just did, a posture. And Arthur has a very dominant posture of a child, which you would learn once you understand how DC psychology works. So he's got a very animated display of how he presents and how he speaks. I, on the other hand, have a very dominant posture of a warrior. So, but I promise today to kind of tone it down, and because I know this is virtual, so I don't want to shout or scream into my microphone. Yeah. So once again, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. Thank you for tuning in. I certainly hope that you have gained a lot of insight this past week. Now I'm going to take you through what happened this week since Monday. Let me just start off my PowerPoint so it's clear as well. All right. Now, if you have been following us since Monday, you would have noticed that we have taken you through a very systematic process or journey, if you will. And in day one, our esteemed speakers, some of you may have followed through from the afternoon Malaysian time right up to the evening or night. And in day one, our esteemed speakers spoke about the challenges faced by organizations. And they also discussed some strategies on how organizations can survive, revive, and thrive during this pandemic in order to become more sustainable. Now in day two, our speakers went through and discussed the challenges faced by HR, the second group of people that we spoke about, and ways to overcome some of these challenges. Now yesterday, I believe, I missed out half of it due to work commitments. But yesterday, our speakers spoke about challenges that individuals faced during this pandemic and actions that they can implement to very quickly reboot themselves. Okay, so our broad theme today, if you have been following us for the past 4 hours or so, is corporate culture. Now, we've already had some amazing speakers in the last 4 hours discussing corporate culture. And today, my topic is going to be on creating a supportive and ideal working environment. And we want to know what that's all about and how does an ideal working environment fit into the whole big picture of culture or workplace culture. Now, I want to begin by sharing an experience with all of you. I've been a trainer for the past 23 years, believe it or not. I can't believe it's been that long, but yeah, it has been that long. And in this journey, just like many of you, I've had my ups and downs. I started my career as an IT trainer. In fact, my entire career has been about training. I don't know how to do anything else except to train. And as an IT trainer, I've been doing that for almost 10 years. And in 2003, I started my own training firm. Of course, I started training IT products, IT applications, and tools. And I slowly moved on into management training essential skills. And what was meant to be a small unit in my organization, we started with 2 people. And then it grew to 3 and it grew to 4. And before I knew it, we had over 30 employees. All right, if I can recall correctly, we had between 35 to 40 employees. So I would say 40 employees. But since 2013, I've had to reboot my business several times. And this is the ups and downs that I mentioned a while ago, right? Because we had a lot of business problems, we had a lot of people problems, which I will discuss with you shortly. And in all these challenging times, being the boss, I always shifted the blame onto my employees. Sorry about that. All right, so what was some of the blame that I had, or that I kind of just threw to my employees? These were the feelings that I had. I always thought that they were not good enough, that I am better, and I made all the decisions, and that they were always wrong, right? Nothing they did ever seemed to be right or based or to my expectations. And this is how the blame culture was very prevalent in my organization during that time. I also thought that they were not proactive or as proactive as they should be, okay? And they are not this and they are not that. And I was just continuously blaming, right? And until several years ago, what happened was I started learning and understanding more about corporate culture. All right, I did a lot of study, I did a lot of reading, and that is when I met DC and Arthur and his team. And I started understanding culture more and more, and the importance of aligning these goals of your employees with that of the organization. And then I realized that it was a totally different ball game. Okay, everything that I was supposed to be doing, I was not doing. I just wanted to run the business. I wanted the business to be profitable, and I wanted to kind of control my employees, control the people that was working with me. So gone are the days of autocracy, right? Today, the way people work, employees expect more autonomy in how they do things. They want to know the role they play in the vision, in the bigger vision of the company. They just don't want to be one department just carrying out functions within that department. They want a voice. They want to be part of the bigger picture. They want to be informed. They want to be heard. And this is why I strongly believe that it is indeed the right time now to reflect, reassess, and reboot. The past 3 days, we have had time to reflect based on what the speakers have shared with us. We have had time to reassess some of the ways that we have been doing things. And today, I believe it is time for us to learn how to reboot ourselves, our organizations, based on what we have learned. And I will be discussing, of course, some of DC psychology's frameworks and methodologies for you to get there. Now, as many of you know, since COVID hit us earlier this year in March, in Malaysia, we had a lockdown that started somewhere in the middle of the month, 18th of March, if I recall correctly. And half the world's population was experiencing some kind of a lockdown measure. Of course, it was a little relaxed in some countries. It was more stringent in others. Now, businesses and economies were shut, and there were even fears of history repeating itself. People were talking about, comparing it to the Great Depression and so forth. Right? Not only in this part of the world, but globally. And it was fearful. This was things that we were talking about. They were imminent. Is it going to happen? If it's going to happen, when is it going to happen? And if it does happen, what are we going to do? So today, fast forward a couple of months down the road, right? It's probably not as bad as we thought it was going to be. But again, we don't know what the future is going to hold. Right? And in Malaysia, we've had, in this past few months, I've met a lot of people, a lot of friends. I even spoke to a lot of business owners, the small business owners that were, operating food trucks and little shops around my area. And even the big businesses, they were severely affected by this pandemic. There were so many small businesses who were earning by the day. They needed to earn daily in order to survive, had also suffered a lot of losses simply because they were not allowed to operate, right? They had to look for other means of getting income, right? Another thing was for the SMEs and the larger organizations, there were some people who were not able to adapt to this current situation in terms of having to transform their companies into online. For instance, me as a trainer, I'm sorry, all right? The first couple of weeks, I was lost. What do? Do I just wait this out? In fact, I was doing a lot of cooking. I've not cooked as much as I had the whole of last year and the beginning of this year combined in that 2 weeks of this pandemic, right? I was cooking for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and trying out new recipes, because I just said, let's wait this out. It might get better in after these 2 weeks. But guess what? It didn't, right? There was an announcement, there was a further lockdown, and then a further lockdown. And what I had to do was to now decide, how am I going to take my business online, right? And as many companies and business owners who were clueless and lost, so was I. Right? So many businesses and economic activities actually came to a standstill, came to a halt during this time. All right. However, on the other end of the spectrum, there are people who were employed by organizations. So they continued work, although it was working at home, right? And some of them probably even took a pay cut. And I remember one of my friends were telling me he took a 10% pay cut, and the top level management staff had to settle for a 30% pay cut. Now, yes, it may be bad. It's nobody wants to earn less than they were, but at least these people had a job. They still had a work that they could do, and they could still earn, right? Compared to the other group of people I spoke about a while ago. Now in Malaysia, today we are now in a phase called the recovery phase, where most of the businesses are restarting. And I just got a message a while ago that a few other businesses who were still shut were allowed to operate come July 1st. Right? In fact, they even are allowing gatherings of up to, I think, 250 people, weddings, etc. So my question to you today is, if That is, if you are still in operation, if you still have a business. How are you, as a business entity, as a business owner, as a corporation, how are you ensuring that your employees can and will make up for this lost time during these past few months, right? And when they return to their office, how are things going to be? Some of us have not worked for 3 months, 4 months, some probably up to 6 months, maybe even beyond that. So my question again to you is, how well prepared are you as a business owner in terms of strategy? How well prepared are your employees? Are they aware of the impact, what needs to be done differently once they come back to work, right? And how is this affecting the business? Do your employees understand the damage that your business has sustained due to this pandemic in these past few months, right? Or are they just going to come back to work and just continue doing things the way they always have? So I think these are some questions that we need to ponder upon, right? These are some questions that we need to ponder upon and ask ourselves if we want to impact any change, if we need to reboot, right? Because the reality is that this pandemic had not only impacted us economically, but to many people psychologically as well. I've spoken to many friends in this past few months and business associates, and many people, even in the chats, when I read some of the group messages, you hear of many people saying that they feel lost, they feel confused, unsure of what to do. And this includes business owners, this includes trainers in my case that I spoke to, and some are even saying, when I asked them, what did you do in this past few months, especially in the beginning? Many of them said, oh, we were doing a lot of self-reflection and deep thinking, and we were just pondering on how and what can we do, not just to survive, but also how can I continue making an income for myself, for my business, okay? And there was also a percentage of people who were actually, or it seemed at least, very depressed. They got into a very depressive state because of all the confusion, probably the commitments of having to pay their bills and taking care of their families and so forth, right? Now, what I want you to understand now is it is important to note that some of these people that I'm talking about include your employees. Do we understand what they have been going through? Do we understand the trauma, if I could call it that and the confusions, the depression, if they were going through it? Do we understand what they were experiencing? So therefore, when all this is over, or when things get back to normal, whatever normal may be, it is going to be an imperative that you understand your employees better. And that is the subject of what we are talking about today, right? We want to understand their emotions. We want to understand how we can realign our company's culture to that of our employees, so that together as a team, the management, the business owners, the company in this case, can align the expectations, can align the culture together with the employees, so that the company's goals, the company's vision can be realized together as a team, right? Now, one important element in realigning your organization culture is to offer clarity and provide updates to your employees. Employees always want to be part of something larger. They don't want to be part of a department and just carry out their routine functions in a functional way without understanding what is the big picture, what is the big goal here, what are we really doing, and how I play a part of that, all right? And these are some elements of what I would call an ideal work environment, or an ideal working environment. All right, now, during all this time when employees have been working for us, when we may or we may not have realized, right, that we want them to be productive, right? And we want them to be efficient. We want better engagement with them. But this is also what they want. They want better communication. They also want to solve problems, right? But most importantly, they also want a sense of purpose. Now, the question is, are we as business owners or as leaders of an organization, are we providing this to our employees, right? Are we providing a platform, an environment where they can be productive, where they can be efficient and have more engagement? Because this is what we all want, don't we? Right? Now, you would have probably heard of this saying, the greatest intangible asset of any company are its employees. Now, we have heard of this saying time and again, all right? And it is true, because people are your biggest assets in any organization, right? And did you also know at the same time, right, that more than 90%, I know it's a staggering amount, but more than 90% of problems in an organization are people related. Yes, you will have the occasional system related problems, and others, but what constitutes your biggest problems are related to the people, right? And that's where conflicts stems from, and that's where most of our energy is usually spent, sorting people out, sorting our employees out. And these employees could be any levels, could be your managers even, right? And people related problems are usually influenced by the environment that they work in, right? Some of you would have watched the advertisements between the speakers this past few days, and you would have heard Arthur talk about the environment in several of the videos, right? Now, you have to understand that the organizational culture within a company is what sets the tone to what your employees will learn, to how they would react, to how they would behave. So if the culture is not a good one, or one that is promoting some of the elements I spoke about earlier, then you can, then what is going to happen is that's what everyone's going to face, right? So if you have a culture, on the other hand, that embraces communication and efficiency and openness, then that is going to be the culture that manifests as well. And your employees will kind of get influenced by that culture, right? So which is why if you are a business owner or someone who holds a senior position today, and you want to bring changes to your organization, this will be some of the questions that I have for you. Number one, how well do you know your employees, right? Pre-COVID and most importantly, post-COVID, all right? Do you know how engaged they are with your business? Are they just coming to work just to get a salary? Or are they motivated? Are your employees aware of what the business goals are, right? And how they play a role to help you achieve that, right? Is your organizational culture even still intact post-COVID? Does your current work environment support an ideal working environment? And these are some of the questions you can ask yourself, you can ponder upon it and decide. If you don't have the answer, then yes, it is time for you to reboot and apply some of the strategies that we're going to discuss today and for the remaining part of today with the other speakers as well. We'll have a very interesting topic coming up right after mine, and Johan is actually going to talk about the whole corporate culture in detail. All right. Now, why did I ask you these questions? It is basically for you to think how engaged, for you to determine how engaged and motivated your employees are going to be after this. Okay. And if you don't have an environment that is motivated, right, or a culture that's motivated, then things are going to remain how they always have been, right? So during this pandemic, it has taught us all a lesson, and that lesson is how can I now do things differently? How can I create an ideal work environment so that the company goals can be achieved? Now, I've used this word ideal work environment several times already, I think 3 or 4 times. Okay, so let's quickly define what ideal work environment means. Now, it's basically, think of it as your organization having partners, all right? That is your employees, of course, who will at the same time benefit from the common goals and objectives. When your employees feel that they are part of the system, they feel as part of the team, as part of the organization, then there's going to be a lot of proactivity because they have that sense of belonging. And once someone has that sense of belonging, you don't have to instruct them anymore. You don't have to tell them what to do and what not to do. That would come naturally to most people when I feel that I am part of something, of a common goal, right? So generally, many employees, they are very enthusiastic. Many employees are actually enthusiastic, but we don't see that. And sometimes we wonder and we blame them, right? Oh, you are lazy or you are not enthusiastic. And we hope that they become more enthusiastic. And you can hope all you want, and that's not going to change if your culture is not promoting that. If your culture promotes learning, promotes better engagement, promotes communication, then you can rest assured that it will rub off onto your employees. All right. So what are some of the things employees want? Right. Let me just get to my next slide. Employees want a positive work environment, and this can include even things like the location of where they work, right? It can include the facilities that the organization provides, the openness in terms of communication between managers and employee, basically top down or bottom up. How are interactions in your company, right? Is there an openness? Can I go up to the CEO and speak with her or speak with him, right? And these are the little things. Well, they're not so little after all, once you see the whole picture. But are these things present in your company, right? Of course, employees also want to be sent for training. They want their personal development to be improved as they continue working with you. They want to see growth in terms of promotions, in terms of salary, right? In terms of becoming someone better, right? And of course, they also want to have a culture where all this is manifested, where a culture where they have that sense of belonging and they enjoy coming to work daily. Now, some of you may know this, that in DC, what Arthur and team has done is they've conducted a survey across almost 60 countries, all right, and asking people from various positions and levels in an organization what they thought an ideal work environment was. Now, surprisingly, right, that their answers were nothing out of the ordinary. They were more or less the same. So when these answers were compiled, right, these were what we found out, right? Number one, that most people, right, in one term, wanted teamwork, wanted a collaboration. They wanted to be trusted, to be innovative. Like, let me try out new things. I may fail, but it's better to fail than never to try. And they wanted to have a trust within team members in order to take accountability. Secondly, they wanted clarity, right? Clarity in terms of knowing what's going on, the bigger picture. Where is this company headed to? What are some of our plans? It may not be, well, it could be even the financial plans. What are some of the goals of this organization that I'm part of? They wanted clarity, right, towards a common goal so that they could feel a sense of belonging. Thirdly, we have a supportive environment. A supportive environment is having a leadership that helps me, that grooms me, that helps me grow, helps me learn, right? Whether it's by trial and error, whether it's for, going for training or being a mentor towards your employees, But at the end of the day, your employees would grow, right? Would grow and become better people, better employees. And last but not least, many people said fun. Now, who wouldn't want an environment or a workplace that has fun elements in it? And I don't just mean the occasional or the yearly annual dinners and family days and sports days that companies have, but I'm talking about a fun environment during work hours even, right? And some of you would have heard companies like Google even has time allocated for quick naps or power naps, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, because they realize that with that inclusion of fun environment, it actually improves the performance of the employees, right? Now, while all these things that we talked about, teamwork, clarity, supportive environment, and fun, are not unusual words. They are words we hear all the time, but they are so essential. They are so essential in ensuring that the culture that you have is built upon these terms that we just talked about. Now, if you can get your people, your employees to come into alignment and support the common objectives that the leadership has, you will notice, surely you will notice that they are going to give you amazing results. They're going to start taking on the demands of your customers, whether or not you're aware of it, because their customers or your customers are now theirs as well. They are not going to look at it as a job scope. They're not going to look at it as a job description. Because of the ownership, your customers are now their customers. And they're also going to look at your competitors and their threats. And your competitors are now their competitors. And all this is going to help you as a leader push your organization forward. So having employees that is part of this culture is going to push your company forward for bigger and greater things. Now, if we can't deny the fact that in many organizations you do have leadership or managers who stay in their silos for whatever reason, where they just want to protect themselves, protect their positions, and protect their own turf, so to speak. And because of this mentality, you will see that they sometimes don't want to share information with their subordinates. They refuse to collaborate on shared visions, and they don't think with an entrepreneurial mindset, right? So you could call it selfish, call it fear if you want, or threat, right? But by doing that, you will notice that the employees will underproduce. They are not going to be as committed as you would like them to be. And you know where your answer is, right? Having this silo mentality is creating an environment. So next time, your employees, when they become managers, are also going to have that same mentality, because that is the culture that has manifested throughout your organization, which is why you need to have a team that is both in the business and also on the business, because by doing that, then you're going to see the results that you want. Now, if you look at my next slide, I have a couple of pictures there, and these are just a couple of other things that employees want in terms of a good culture. They want ownership of work. They want flexibility in terms of working hours or work from home. They want a stable environment so they know that their jobs are secure. Of course, they want to be well compensated. But as we know, money is not everything. You could pay a staff any amount that they want, and that's not going to give you the promise of performance. And of course, they want to advance opportunities in terms of career advancement, in terms of rewards and compensation. And of course, they want to be recognized. They want the due respect that they probably deserve. Yeah, they want a pat on their shoulder. They want recognition. They want an award. They want to be, they want you to realize and recognize the contributions that they have given to the organization. Okay, now we talk about ideal work environment. Now, this is not a comprehensive list, but this next 5 items that you see on your slides are a few keys that you can immediately apply to create an ideal work environment. Number 1, you can help by having a mentorship culture. So a mentorship culture is one where you help each other. You have a mentor, mentee, right? So if I'm a manager, I am going to groom my employee to become like me one day. And I myself, as a manager, have my own manager or my own supervisor who mentors me. So this culture of mentorship is permeates throughout the organization, and this improves people. This helps people grow into better leaders, into better employees. Next is you want to have a sense of community. It's the same thing. When you have a sense of community, everyone believes that there is always going to be help. Rather than blame, there would be help. It's okay to make mistakes because someone's going to come to the rescue. I've got a quick story that I can tell you, which happened just about a month or so ago. Now, I enrolled myself in a course, a virtual course, and in this course, I've not met any of the 40 people. I've not met the facilitator because everything was virtual. And what happened was that a little community was created even before the course started. So we had a group and we had chats there. We kind of discussed. Yeah, it was strangers, so everyone kind of had, a barrier in front of them. But as time went on, we came to a point where each of us had to do a 1-hour online webinar. And only then did I realize how the 40 people actually came together to help, because our level of understanding the tools and the techniques and going online and Zoom were different. There were some people who have never heard of Zoom. Some people have never gone on a camera before, never gone in, live on a video conferencing software before. And of course, not to mention the age gap. We had some people in their 20s and we had some people in their 70s. So a lot of a huge gap between the knowledge and skills in this group. But what happened that at the end, that it all turned out well because of this community, this sense of community that we had, and everyone had something to contribute. And the younger people were helping out the older people in some areas. The older people were helping out the younger people in some areas, and it was really amazing how this sense of community helped build the sense of belonging. And till today, we have not met each other, but we are good friends. And you can see what community does for you in your organization. And of course, employees also want to manage their own time, right? I'll tell you a little story about that in a bit. And next would be employees also want to develop their skill set. They want to improve in terms of growth, in terms of personal development. And last but not least would be having open communications, right? Which will reduce conflicts in an organization. When there's transparency, even when there is a conflict, which can happen anywhere, anytime, right? Having open communications is going to help you solve that problem, right? So one example I want to give you is Google, right? Talking about freedom to manage your own time. Google came up with what we call, or their infamous 20% time policy. Some of you may have heard of this. I'm not very sure if they're still doing it. I think they're not, or they've changed it. But at the time they did this, right? What they did was they allowed their engineers to spend up to 20% of their work week or their work time on only projects that interested them. So basically 80% is what I give them, and 20% they get to choose what they want to do. And by allowing this, what Google learned, that they could actually they could tap into their employees' hidden talents, which they would have otherwise not have seen. It's pretty much like having a talent show in your company. Now, you work with all your employees every day for years, for months, for years sometimes. And sometimes we don't know some of their hidden talents until we have a talent show. And then we know, this guy plays the piano, or she plays the guitar, or this person can sing. And these hidden talents come to light. And that's pretty much the same thing when you have this 20% time policy. It allows you to discover certain hidden talents from your employees. And the good thing is, when we talk about innovation and creativity, right, this becomes something that's displayed, becomes open. And this openness in terms of innovation, because of your hidden talents, will start permeating throughout your organization. Other departments will see this and they will be like, hey, this is interesting, right? I also want to do something similar. I want to show off my skills, my hidden talents, right? And that culture is going to benefit at the end everybody. You benefit, I benefit, the organization benefits, right? So as business owners and managers, do you know how engaged your employees are now, post-COVID, right? Perhaps some of you might even say, Dave, when I look back at my company, when I walk into my organization, I see my employees working, right? And it seems all right. They are all at their workplace. They all are doing their work. Now, I have a term for this, and I call it LLB. LLB. Now, it's not the term associated to being a lawyer or being in the legal profession. LLB is a term I coined, and I call it look like busy. Right? Now, some employees have mastered the art of looking like busy. So when the boss walks in, everyone's in their computers and busy typing and doing their work. And I feel proud, my employees are busy at work, right? And LLB, while it may look like people are busy, we have to ask ourselves, why are they pretending to look like busy? Is that also part of the culture in the organization, right? Now, I'd like to show you another slide. And some of you may have heard of this before. It was from a study or a survey done by Gallup. And in this study, it was done across 150 countries. Now, I'm actually going to do a comparison with this Gallup study for the world, or the 150 countries, versus the one that is in the United States. So the number that you are seeing right now on your screen is for the world, because I think that gives you a better depiction of what's really happening, as opposed to just taking or using one country as a benchmark. So what this study actually showed is that only 15% of the people surveyed, right, were actually engaged in the organization. So let's quickly define what engaged means in this case. So engaged is where you have employees who are loyal. Disengaged is where your employees are just passengers. They're just riding and they're slipping through their work day, and they are not passionate or no energy. And then 18% are actively disengaged, right? And these people are toxic, and they are basically sinking the boat, if I could call it that, right? So it's important to know that these are the statistics that's been shown for these three groups of people. So you can ask yourself this question: where are my employees today, right? Are they engaged? Are they disengaged? Or are they actively disengaged? Very quickly, this is just a slide to show you the numbers for the US. And if you look at the numbers right there, it doesn't look too bad, especially since this was from 2000 till 2018. So it's like 18 years of data. But if you look at the engaged and the actively disengaged, we are forgetting the people who are disengaged. So the number still goes along the 50 50%, right? So even though this is from the United States, if we look at 2018, there is still 53% of people who are not engaged. So it's certainly some numbers that is going to get you to think and to see what you can do about it. Now I'm just going to take a few more minutes. So my suggestion to you today is, before you go back and start making changes to create an ideal work environment, start off with a benchmark, right? Start off with a benchmark, because another Gallup study has shown that 70% of companies, when they start off this exercise or initiatives, right, to for culture change, right, 70% of it is doomed to fail. While the initiative itself is good, right, they do not achieve what they are supposed to achieve simply because they didn't benchmark it. They did not start somewhere, right? They did not know where they were. Okay, so which means that out of every work week that they spent, 3.5 days of that week were literally wasted. They tried things like training, restructuring their organization, moving people around, but it all failed. So today I want to introduce to you, before I come towards the end of my talk, right, I'd like to introduce to you the DC Organizational Culture Audit. Right? Now, the audit simply benchmarks what culture is your company experiencing. And the only way to do this is if you have a method to check what your employees are thinking. What are your employees feeling? Okay, because if you were to do an audit out there, I did a Google search earlier this morning, it's going to cost you between $20,000 to $35,000. And I've got some good news for you. We have 5 main cultures, and our next speaker, Johan, is going to go through these 5 cultures in depth. So I'm not going to go through that with you today. But what I am going to do before I end is I have a gift, or we have a gift for you. And if you actually go to this website, COVID-19 Culture Evolution, you will see that Arthur and team has been very gracious and during this pandemic in helping organizations to benchmark their culture. It's complimentary, so grab this golden opportunity to go in here, fill up the form, and you and your employees will of course be involved in this. And once they finish the assessment, you will be given a report. A report will be sent to you to tell you which of these 5 culture you belong to. And once you know that, moving ahead to fix this is going to be so much easier and smoother as well. I also have a little, Arthur mentioned that I wrote a book last year, and I would like to actually gift this book to all of you as well. This is the website that you can go. It should be on your screen right now. It looks like Davidson Abishegam game book, but it's not. It's Davidson Abishegam e-book. Okay, even I read that wrongly. So go to this website and put in your name, and you will immediately receive a copy of my ebook entitled 8 Vital Skills to Succeed at the Workplace. Right? You will also see my website there. It's actually a work in progress, but it's online. So updated information is going to appear there in time to come. It's www.davidsonabishegam.com. Right? This is what the book looks like. You might see some familiar faces. Arthur's on it as well, and a couple of other people that some of you may be familiar with. Right? So this is my contact details. If you'd like to email me, that's my email address. And if you'd like to get in touch with me in Instagram, that's my Instagram handle, davidson.trainer. Right? So before I end my session today, maybe if there's a question or two, we would look at the chat right now. There's one that appears on the screen.
Okay. Davidson, hang on. Shall I just help you with all these questions here?
Yeah, sure.
We have actually 2 questions. Okay, the one that you can see on the screen right now is from Ratin Banerjee, right? And his question here is that, is a flatter organization more conducive to a supportive environment than a strongly hierarchical organization?
All right, Ratin, thank you for that question. Now, when we talk about a strongly hierarchical organization, now we have looked at vertical leadership and horizontal leadership. And I think most people will agree that in today's day and age, especially having a lot of millennials coming to the workplace today, having a flat work structure is actually going to do you more good than having a more commanding, authoritative work style. Yes, I understand that's where many people came from the 50s, 60s, and it is still prevalent in many companies even today. But that would be the culture you create, and it is not going to be a good one if that continues. And you will see that. Yes.
Okay. Actually, to add on, right, to Ratin and to answer Davidson's as well, right? Because I also do generation, and on Tuesday I spoke on generation. So this, to answer your question, yes, I agree with Davidson that it all depends on the generation, what type of generation you have in the organization. If there are people who are in the 50s, hierarchical is something that they are used to and they have grown with it, and it's their style, their culture. If you have people who are 20s and early 30s working for you, they will not be engaged. And that's where, people will, if you become too control driven and too hierarchical, they won't like it, and chances that they won't stay with you long.
True.
Right? That is just to add on, right? To Dave reply. And Davidson, we have another question here from Li Wenfeng. And the question here is, can the work from home culture be a barrier in creating an ideal working environment? Wow, I think that's a good question.
Oh, certainly, because you have to understand that work from home is also a new thing, right? But certainly the ideal work environment can be applied, because the only difference here now is the location of where people are. Like, you are working from your home in a different country, even perhaps, and I'm working from my home from a different country. But if the culture is strong, if the culture is a positive one, then it doesn't matter where your staff are. In fact, to answer that question a little deeper, it is going to give you that sense of belonging, that sense of trust that the organization has given you because you are working from home. I don't know if you have actually read the news recently. Facebook and a few other companies have even announced that even post-COVID, they want all their staff to work at home. And that could only mean it because the culture that's within that organization is providing that or creating that environment, where whether they're at home or whether they congregate at the company really doesn't make a difference, because the culture is stronger than where you are physically located. Thanks for that question.
Thank you very much. I think that's all the time that we have. And ladies and gentlemen, certainly let's, give an applause to Mr. Davidson Abishegam, right? And on this banner again, this is the web where you can get his free gift. Please lock it in and claim your free gift. Okay, thank you very much, Davidson. We'll see you, and the next speaker shall be coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.